We're now entering the fourth stage of the process, which is the bargaining stage. And here the mediator will start to increase the intensity, really, of the whole process and the day, and be more challenging, because this is about both sides starting to think about possible solutions, looking forward to try and work out, can they really settle this in one day?
So Anstey, what are you going to do next?
I'm going to become far more challenging. I mean, so far I've been trying to open people up and get alongside them. So I've been using open questions, really good listening, reflecting back to people what they've said. But now I'm going to start picking up on unrealistic offers, inconsistencies, and I'm going to give people some reality checks. And that way we're going to move the whole process forward much quicker. I now want to focus on two of the...
It's now after lunch and people have had time to take stock and reflect on the morning and the discussions. And I think they will want to see the process moving now to try and understand how this could reach a settlement.
I would like to start off by focusing on two of the disputed issues that are holding this whole process up. Firstly, the costs for your extension, which were £1 million, which is a high figure.
Yes, but the extension was built not to the extension to the home, it was built purely for business. So it's a business premises. And that's exactly what we built it for, and that's exactly what it's used for.
Yeah, and we did have numerous quotes, and this one was one of the most reasonable.
Yeah.
Still a high figure. And secondly, you have travel expenses for £250,000, which again is a very high figure.
We've been doing a lot of travelling to try and grow and develop the business.
I would like you to make an offer in terms of these travel expenses for me to then give to Mr. Blood and Mr. Gain.
Well, we did discuss this,
Yeah,
didn't
we did. We said 10%.
10%?
Yeah.
You feel that's a reasonable offer?
Yes, I think that's a reasonable offer, yeah.
So if you were in Mr. Blood or Mr. Gain's shoes, you'd go, yeah, 10%, that's a reasonable offer.
I would say they've made a reasonable offer.
As you can see, the mediator has to challenge one of the offers from one party. And this is often the case because rather than taking a ridiculous offer from one side to the other, there does need to be a reality check. Otherwise it would undermine the whole process and also the integrity of the mediator.
A high proportion of these travel expenses relate to travel to and from Spain and in and around Spain.
Well, we do have a holiday home in Spain.
Well, we have a premises, a home in Spain.
You have a premises, a home in Spain?
Yes, indeed.
But as far as I knew, you don't actually have any business interests in Spain.
No, but every time we've been there, we've been trying to build interests in Spain and expand into that market.
Yes, it's all about networking, you see.
Networking.
And we've
Lots
been
of
emailing
networking.
from the premises, we've been letters, we're going to go out to see people.
So if I was to lay out all your travel expenses out on the table,
Yeah.
how many of them would relate to weekends and holiday periods?
Mostly all of them.
So if this was to go to court and you had to swear under oath, how many of these business expenses would you be happy to claim under oath? I would like you to reflect on what we've just been talking about. I'm going to give you an hour and I'm going to leave the room. And I would like you to come up with an offer, a fair and reasonable offer for me to then take to Mr. Blood and Mr. Gain. I'll see you both in an hour. Thank you.
The idea of leaving the room is very important It's quite a powerful statement without saying anything. It actually gives the mediator some time out to take a breather, but also it forces the side that's made a ridiculous offer to actually sit there and reflect and consider what they're doing.
So I could really do with a glass of wine, but that I have to wait till later. I've actually just left them for an hour to reflect on things because they came up with a really unrealistic offer, but I'm now confident they're going to come up with something good that I can then take back to the revenue, but I'm going to go and get a cup of tea. Okay. Now that you've had a chance to reflect on things, what are you prepared to offer in terms of travel expenses to Mr. Blood and Mr. Gain?
Well, given what's been discussed, we feel that 80% is a reasonable offer.
Okay.
But I want some concessions from them.
And I now want to move on to the payroll issues. There are 4 names on the payroll, is this correct?
Yes.
From what I understand, one of the names on the payroll, Mr. George Allen Spencer Smith, is deceased.
Yes.
How do you think this looks to Mr. Blood and Mr. Gain when one of the people on the payroll is dead?
Perhaps I should explain. The gentleman you're referring to is, or was, Ashley's Uncle George. Now, when he died, he left Ashley's aunt in a precarious financial position. So as family, we felt we wanted to keep putting the money into the account in order to help her out financially. I mean, I'm sure you can understand that.
Yeah, but there was I asked you, and you deal with the payroll, I asked you to take that off.
Things have been a little bit out of kilter, haven't they? I mean,
Indeed
does
they
this have to turn into
But that
a
was
blame
your
game?
job. Yeah, it has to become a blame
Things have been a little
game.
bit... Pardon?
You should have taken that
Ashley and
off.
Fiona, let's move on from this and let's focus on some solutions that the revenue are going to be happy with.
Right.
I'm going to give you a little bit of time again just to reflect on things about what you can do with these payroll issues. Have you had some time to come to a decision?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, we will make a gift to Aunt Margaret, and I will take her off the payroll as soon as possible.
Great. And you also mentioned getting together CVs for the other relatives so that we're confirming that they are legitimate bookkeepers.
No problem at all. Absolutely no problem.
Good. Thank you.
The mediator now has an offer that she can reasonably present to the HMRC inspectors, but this would have actually taken quite a bit of time to develop, so there would have been some toing and froing between the 2 private rooms and some more time out for the mediator to consider what was reasonable to both parties. Often it's about both parties feeling equally unhappy about the possible solution. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to use a little bit of artistic license, so we didn't go into the whole discussion and debate about the extension, but it was agreed between both parties that there would be a 10% disallowance of the cost for tax purposes.
I've had a very productive meeting with Mr. and Mrs. Spencer Smith, and we've made a lot of progress. The feedback for the meeting is they're prepared to reduce their travel expenses by 80%. In terms of the extension, they're prepared to reduce their expenses by 10%. And in terms of the payroll, there has been a clerical error and the deceased relative will be taken off the payroll system immediately. How do you feel about these offers?
Well, it's a positive step towards resolving the case, and I'm pleased that the Spencer Smiths are being realistic about their claims.
I'm not sure realistic is the word that I would use.
I've actually found out a very important piece of information. Fiona is heavily involved in charity work. In fact, she set up a homeless shelter, and they're using part of the business extension for the homeless shelter.
Hang on a minute here. They have never mentioned any charitable works to us prior to today. And let's be clear here, they are not a registered charity.
I understand that. However, a lot of good work is being done by the homeless shelter, as I say, a service to the local community.
Now the two inspectors can see that Mr. and Mrs. Spencer-Smith are prepared to make some concessions and move from their original positions, there starts to get some real momentum in the process, and the mediator can move quite quickly to start to flesh out the details of the settlement.
Is there any way that this could be taken into consideration?
Something that I want you to take that up.
Okay, yeah. All right, regarding the charity work, I'm prepared to look into this for them and offset some of that against the period that they claim the extension was used for this purpose.
Yeah, but let's be absolutely clear here. Any concession that we make has to be subject to us receiving all necessary paperwork that actually proves that these premises are being used in this way and not another fairy tale.
Mr. Blood, a little bird has told me that you are hoping to retire over the next few months.
Yes, he is.
Therefore, I would imagine it would be really beneficial to resolve this case today.
Well...
Good. So you both agree that we can move forward to draft a settlement?
Totally.
Yes.
So, are you happy with the way things are progressing?
I have no comment to make at this time.
Well, yes, I am. There seems to be a real light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm just looking forward to getting it all sorted out. So yes, I feel very positive. Thank you.
So who do you think told her about my retirement then?
Interesting question. I don't really know. I mean,
Do you think it came from our office?
Joanne, you mean?
Well, Joanne, is that likely?
Well, I mean, she does like to chat. I don't actually think it had any bearing on the progress that we made today.
Well, no, I don't think it had any bearing. I'd just like to know who told them.
Well, I'm afraid I have no idea who.
So, are you happy with the way things have gone?
Well,
Well, look, let's not get too excited. Nothing's been signed, and more importantly, no monies have been paid.
Well, I'm really pleased. To be honest, I'm quite surprised how much has been achieved in a day. Yeah, pleased.
All parties at this stage have said they are happy to move on, happy in inverted commas, to move on to the conclusion phase. And that's really through the skill and effort and enthusiasm of the mediator, keeping them on track, keeping them looking forward rather than going over history of the case, that they can actually think about the details of the settlement agreement. And as we've seen, no one said it was going to be easy.
We've reached a resolution, but I'd just like to emphasise they haven't actually won.